This past week has been filled with exciting new things from both the Gala TCG convention and the GAMA Expo. The Gala TCG Expo was this past weekend and we got 6 new cards. 4 of them were steel cards and 2 more were sapphire. The first card we see is Beast Hardheaded. He's an inkable 5 cost with a 4/4 stat line and 2 lore. His ability is Break. When you play this character, you may banish a chosen item. This is really awesome to see because we've needed some item removal so far. This is actually the first item removal card that we've seen. We've seen a bunch of items already, so I'm expecting to see more item removal. I think this is a really solid ability on a pretty well-statted character for all things considered, and I have to say, Beast looks crazy in this picture. I absolutely love the art for this card. Next, we see Prince Eric Dashing and Brave. Prince Eric is an inkable 2 cost with a 1/3 stat line and 1 lore. He has Challenger +2, which means while challenging, he gets +2 strength. This is honestly another really solid steel card that pairs pretty well with Captain Hook because Captain Hook has a really similar ability. So you could do a 1-drop Captain Hook and then turn 2 Prince Eric. We're really starting to see steel take on the role of board control in great tempo with these characters that you just throw down and you let sit there and wait until your opponents exert their characters for you to take them out. After that, we see Goons, Maleficent's Underlings. Overall, this is a pretty basic card. It's just an inkable 1 cost with a 2/2 stat line and 1 lore. It's basically the steel version of Flounder. Lastly, for steel, we saw Smash. Smash is an action card that lets you deal 3 damage to the chosen character. This is another really solid card. The 3 damage is going to pair well with Fire the Cannon's 2 damage, but unlike Fire the Cannons, this is actually inkable, which is also a really big plus. Moving on to the Sapphire cards revealed, we got more Princess synergy with Jasmine Disguised and another Aurora Briar Rose. Jasmine is a really basic inkable 3-drop with a 3/3 stat line and 2 lore. So far, seeing 2 lore in characters has actually been pretty good, so these are honestly really solid stats for this card. That princess trait I think is going to be really valuable because there's already a bunch of princesses in Sapphire and Amber, and there was already a princess themed deck floating around with Sapphire and Amber, so Jasmine being added to that pool only makes that deck a little bit better. Speaking of which, we have the second Aurora Briar Rose. She's an inkable 4 cost with a 2/5 stat line and 1 lore. She's also a princess and has the ability Disarming Beauty. When you pay this character, chosen character gets -2 this turn. Again, she has really solid stats, having a big butt with a bunch of willpower, but that disarming ability is really good. The little bit of play that we've seen so far with Scar has shown that reducing strength on characters so you can trade well with them is actually super strong. So Aurora Briar Rose is basically like a mini Scar. I think this is going to be a really great addition to the princess deck. And just in case you were wondering, 1 jump ahead still works with Princess Briar Rose, so you could get a 4-drop on turn 3, trade, then shift into Aurora Dreaming Guardian on turn 4. You could also turn 2 Aurora Regal Princess, turn 3 1 jump ahead, shift Aurora Dreaming Guardian, turn 4 Aurora Briar Rose, possibly trade for free, and then turn 5 Moana, setting up for a super strong princess board. From what I understand, that's pretty much all we saw out of Gala. I'm really happy with these cards. It's really awesome to see more item removal. Like I said, I think there's going to be more along the way. I'm happy to see more spot removal through things like Smash. It's just going to help keep the boards from getting super wide and not being able to really do anything about it. That being said, wide removal is still needed, but I'd be really surprised if we don't see something like that in the first chapter. We just kind of have to wait for it right now. But overall, I'm super happy with what we saw at Gala. Starting this past Monday, my friends Jared and James from the Citizens of Lorcana podcast and Liam from the Illumineers made their way over to the GAMA Expo where they were able to talk to Ryan and Steve, 2 co-designers for Disney Lorcana. They were able to play demo decks, get great looks at product, new cards, and hear more exciting news. On Monday night, they were given the opportunity to play with 40 card demo decks and were told these decks were pared down versions of the starter decks, so we can expect the cards they saw in those to be in the starter decks. They were also told in a meeting that the starter decks have 20-ish unique cards in the 60 card deck, meaning the deck is likely made up of 2 to 3 copies of around 20 different cards. As soon as they started playing with the demo decks, they noticed some cards we've never seen before, and man are these exciting. 6 more cards were revealed during this demo session, 4 of them being Amethyst and 2 of them being Amber. The first card we see might be one of my favorite flavor cards in the first chapter so far. This is Ariel on Human Legs. She's an inkable 4 cost with a 3/4 stat line and 2 lore. She has the ability Voiceless, which says this character can't exert to sing songs. I just love the flavor on this. Not only can Ariel on Human Legs not sing songs, but her flavor text is literally just ... like she can't say anything. Interestingly enough, not being able to sing songs is the first drawback we really see on a card. If I had to guess, this is probably because because she's a princess in Amber. And like I said earlier, we're seeing a lot of princess synergy, and Ariel being a little bit more expensive princess in Amber makes her basically an auto include for the Moana deck. If she could sing songs, she would have access to quite a few songs out there already, and would overall just make her super strong, being able to sing the songs completely for free, and then you just exert Moana to quest, and then now you can actually attack with Ariel. Or you can quest with Ariel, and then quest with Moana, and then sing with Ariel, and it just leads to really nasty combos. I still think she's honestly going to be a really good card in the princess deck regardless. After that, we saw Maximus, Relentless Pursuer. Maximus is an inkable 3-cost with a 3/3 stat line and 1 lore. He has the ability Horse Kick, which says when you play this character, chosen character gets -2 strength this turn. I think this is a really strong card for Amber actually. Amber's lacking in cheaper cards with good stat lines that can trade really well, and like I said about Aurora Brying Rose, we've seen how powerful this -2 strength ability is. This card really gives Amber options to trade pretty efficiently and also gives them a pretty strong trader. Maximus is basically a cheaper Aurora Briar Rose, and if you pair it with something like Hey Hey, you can take some of these lower strength characters and help them trade more evenly. Now this next card, I was praying we would see in the first chapter, and I was starting to get really scared that we weren't going to. Enter Dr. Facilier, Charlatan.
Gentlemen, enchanté. A tip of the hat from Dr. Facilier.
I'm so excited to see Princess and the Frog in the first chapter. This is one of my absolute favorite villains in the Disney franchise. For those of you who don't know, I am a Louisiana native, so Princess and the Frog I just love, and I'm very happy to see this guy in the first chapter. Dr. Facilier is an inkable 2-cost card with a 0/4 stat line and 1 lore. He has the ability Challenger +2, which just means when he challenges, he gets +2 attack. We haven't seen a ton of villains so far, and I actually think this is going to be a pretty decent card in some sort of Villains Matter deck with Amber, mainly because this is just a really good trading card. He has a lot of high willpower, especially for a 2-drop, which basically means on turn 3, after you've played him, he can trade with pretty much anything and still survive. You mix that with some of the healing that's in Amber, and you basically keep Dr. Facilier pretty healthy and difficult to take down. Pair Dr. Facilier with something like Hey Hey, and he's hitting pretty dang hard for a 2-drop. Obviously, the larger downside is the 0 strength because it makes it really easy for your opponents to trade, but if they're trading, especially if they're using more than one character to trade down that high willpower, those characters aren't questing, which is still slowing them down. And I definitely think that's worth something in the type of deck that you would probably play Dr. Facilier in. I am just as excited for this next card that got revealed. We get an action song card, Friends on the Other Side.
I got friends on the other side.
Friends on the Other Side is a 3-cost inkable song card that lets you draw 2 cards. I am so happy with this card. After listening to the song, I figured they had to print this as a draw card. I mean, how could you not? Dr. Facilier and Princess and the Frog being one of my favorite IPs in Disney, I am so happy that we see this card, and it looks like a banger of a card. We've been needing draw support for so long, and this is pretty crazy compared to some of the other draw cards that we have so far. I mean, the 3 ink draw 2 cards already outpaces Magic Mirror, not to mention if you just use this for free by exerting a 3-cost or higher character. The kind of card advantage you get is kind of insane right now, and I think this is going to be a really good Amethyst card. Speaking of more draw, the next card we see is Maleficent Sorceress. She's an inkable 3-cost card with a 2/2 stat line and 1 lore. She has the ability Cast My Spell. When you play this character, you may draw a card. This is yet another villain inside Amethyst. She's a really good card because she basically replaces herself, so you play her out of your hand and then you draw another card, so you don't really lose any card advantage there. And once again, we just need more draw, so being able to cycle through your deck a little bit and see more cards is only good right now. Not to mention, Maleficent Sorceress can sing Friends on the Other Side, and now you're just drawing tons of cards. Finally, we see Jafar, Wicked Sorcerer. Jafar is an inkable 4-cost with a 2/5 stat line and 1 lore. He has Challenger +3, which makes him an amazingly good card. I mean, when you're challenging with Jafar, he's basically a 5/5 for 4. This guy is doing some work. Just like I said with Dr. Facilier, I think this is even a better card to pair with Amber because you just hold it to challenge and it's super menacing on the board. It can take down so many different things, and then with the healing support from Amber, you just heal him right back up. Not to mention, he's yet another villain, which could go perfectly with the Amber Hades deck. One last thing that I noticed with a bunch of these Amethyst cards is all of them are sorcerers. Most of the sorcerers we have so far are an Amethyst. It makes me wonder if we'll ever see any sorcerer synergy and what that might look like. It was honestly really awesome to see what the reception of Lorcana was at GAMA. People seem to be swarming the Lorcana demo. Most of these people are store owners and managers. James from Citizens of Lorcana said at some point they had to grab a puzzle box off of another table and start writing numbers on all the pieces to give out just so they could have a system to get everyone playtime. For basically the entire time that the demo was open, people were trying to play this game. I think this only goes to show Lorcana is going to be really big, and we're only just seeing the beginning of that. The next day, we were lucky enough to watch a Ravensburger presentation live while Jared from Citizens of Lorcana live streamed it. And not everything we heard was new, but there were some interesting little tidbits we learned from the presentation. The first one is that LGSs will get Lorcana 2 weeks earlier than big box stores, which we already knew, but this is guaranteed for the first 6 sets. That means for the first year and a half of Lorcana, you'll be able to go to your LGS and get product before you can find it in big box stores. Ravensburger has done a great job at explaining they want to support the local game scene, they want to build a community, and I think by giving early access to people at LGSs is the exact right way to do this. I'm so happy about this. The next thing we learned is that you're allowed to use multiple languages in your Lorcana decks if you want to. This might be kind of a small thing, but I think it's really fun. If you find a French or a German card that you really like the way it's worded or the way it looks with the different language, you can just slot it into your deck, or maybe somehow you find the card and it's cheaper, you know, it makes it a little bit more accessible. So it's cool to see that you can use multiple languages in your deck. I'm really excited about this next one. They confirmed that you can pull 3 legendary cards in one Lorcana pack. For those of you that don't know, Lorcana booster packs come with 12 cards. 6 of those are common cards, 3 of those are uncommon cards. Then you have 2 cards that can be rare, super rare, or legendary, and then you have 1 foil card that can be any rarity. So basically, there's a chance that you open a booster pack and both of your rare slots are legendary cards and your foil slot is a legendary card. I'm sure those are going to be super rare to pull, but I hope one day I can pull something really awesome with 3 legendaries. That would be amazing. One thing they noted at the presentation was that the first chapter is going to be shipping out in waves, which basically means that not all of the product is being shipped out immediately. So even if you can't get your hands on product on August 18th from your LGS, try to be patient and not give in to the scalpers. More waves should be coming soon after that, so just regularly check with your LGS and see if they have any stock or if they know when they're supposed to get any. We don't want to encourage buying from scalpers because people buying from them is what lets them get away with charging extremely expensive prices. I know that Ravensburger is aware that there's an extremely high demand for this game and they're already working to print more product to satisfy that demand. Something else that was really cool to hear is that they will be reprinting cards for future sets as needed. So let's say something like Stitch Rockstar, which is a super rare card, is really good in the first chapter, but it's really hard to find because it's in that super rare slot and there's not a lot of them going around, making it really expensive to play with. Ravensburger basically said that in future sets, they might print another Stitch Rockstar and throw it into that set so that more Stitch Rockstars can be put out into the world. This could also mean that they just reprint more of an entire set, so maybe there's not enough of the first chapter running around a year from now. They can decide to print more and keep pushing it out, which I think is really good to hear. Again, Ravensburger seems to be very community focused, and it's really important to them that the game is accessible, and to me, I feel like that includes it being affordable. So hopefully if they see that some cards are getting really expensive and it gets really expensive to play this game, they'll just up the printing production and produce more cards. Ravensburger did confirm that all the organized play is being run in-house through them, which is cool to see. They said that software to assist with organized play is in the works, which is basically just something for the LGS to help them organize all of their organized play stuff, which again is great to see that they're trying to help these LGSs and foster community. With that, they said that the organized play kits are free to the stores and supports up to 24 players. This is honestly really great to hear because I've talked to some store owners in the past and sometimes it's kind of difficult for them to decide if they want to buy the organized play kits. For instance, if they only have 6 regular Lorcana players at their LGS and it costs them a lot of money to buy the organized play stuff, they might not be able to buy it because they might not know that they have a consistent fan base of people playing this game. This way they don't have to worry about that. They can just order the organized play kits and and when people come into play, it's not costing the store any extra to foster an organized play community. One last thing that I thought was really awesome and kind of cool, they said that the booster boxes are sealed with paper pull tabs to prevent people from opening boxes and resealing them with plastic wrap. Basically what this means is some booster boxes you'll see come wrapped in this foil cling wrap, which makes it really easy for somebody to open up the booster box, maybe open up a bunch of packs, and then reseal a bunch of packs, put them in the booster box, and then reseal the whole booster box with their own cling wrap and scam people. This makes it so that if you want to open the booster box, you basically have to break the booster box, in the sense of you have to pull the tab on, and there's not going to be a way for you to put the tab back, which again is just really exciting, looking out for the community. After the presentation, the exhibitor hall opened where Lorcana had a booth to show off some exciting new things. Not only were we shown 3 new cards, but we were shown foil cards. These are cold foil cards, which basically means the cards are less likely to curl. For those that don't know, foil cards, depending on how they're made, can curl really bad, especially in humid climates. So it's a really good thing to know that these are cold foil cards and curling shouldn't be as big of an issue. I don't know about y'all, but I think these foils look just beautiful. I already wanted to collect a complete set of the first chapter, and I said I wasn't going to go for a full foil collection, but after seeing these, they might be too beautiful to not try to collect a full set. They are stunning in my opinion. The first new card we saw was Be Our Guest, which is an inkable 2-cost song card. It says, look at the top 4 cards of your deck. You may reveal a character card and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your deck in any order. I think this is going to be a really strong search card for those combo pieces you might be missing. For instance, if you need to look for a Mulan or a Hades, a Moana, a Mickey, Wayward Sorcerer, a Captain Hook, whatever the case, this is going to be a really good card to just look through a bunch of your deck and try and find it as quickly as possible. It's also really good because it's really cheap, so you can always just sing a really cheap unit or play very little ink, which means you're more likely to be able to actually play the character that you find if you find it. The next card we saw was Mickey Mouse Musketeer. Mickey Mouse Musketeer is an inkable 6-cost card with a 2/7 stat line and 2 lore. Finally, we have a Mickey in all 6 inks. I think this Mickey is a really strong Mickey. Its stats are really good with Bodyguard having such a high willpower, and its ability All for One says your other Musketeer characters get +1 strength. Now I know originally the 3 Musketeers were Mickey Mouse, Goofy, and Donald, but I noticed that this Mickey Mouse is a Dreamborn character, which makes me wonder if we might see more Musketeers outside of those 3. I kind of hope we do because a Musketeer deck sounds pretty fun to me. I think this card really embodies the identity of Steel, which is just really good stats and basically just being really good at what it does. Finally, we got another Emerald card called The Beast Is Mine. This is an inkable 3-cost action card that says chosen character gains Reckless during their next turn, which means they can't quest and must challenge if able. So Reckless is a new keyword that we haven't seen before. The wording on this card caused a little bit of confusion, so I just want to make everything clear. A Reckless character can still sing during their turn and do any action with an ability that they have, and I believe you can take other actions before having to challenge with your Reckless character. For instance, if you were to give Elsa Reckless, you could just exert Elsa and use her freeze ability to get around the fact she needs to challenge an opponent if she's able to. Or you could sing a card to exert it so that they don't have to challenge as well. Basically, if you've taken every action possible on your turn and your Reckless character still has the ability to challenge a valid target, it must challenge that target. I've noticed a lot of people are getting hung up on the challenger part of this card when I think the most value comes from the not questing part. That's half the reason I think this is actually going to be a pretty strong control card. Purely being able to keep your opponent from questing can buy enough time to save the game. Forcing a challenge requires a lot of setup, and there's a lot of things your opponent can do to challenge it. Like I said earlier, they can sing a song. They can also probably just trade with their other characters if they don't want to trade with the character you gave Reckless to. But when you start thinking about characters where it would be really important for them to quest, you can start to see the value of this card. If we look at a card like Moana, whose whole ability is relied on questing, you shut down an entire princess deck for a turn if you give Moana Reckless just because she can't quest. If she has to make a bad challenge, that's great too, but you're honestly just happy that she can't quest. This is also a really great card into evasives. Typically, evasive cards are understated units, and the whole point of evasive on a card is so that it can quest turn after turn and not have to worry about being challenged. So if you give an evasive character Reckless, not only can they not challenge, but they're also probably forced to make a bad trade because they're understated. But again, if you give someone like Mickey Mouse Brave Little Tailor Reckless, you're just happy that your opponent can't quest for 4 lore the next turn, because that is a huge swing in lore. Not to mention, this card is inkable, and if there's one thing that I'm learning so far out of testing, it's that just having a card being inkable makes it a lot better. Don't get me wrong, a lot of the non-inkable cards are pretty good, but those non-inkable card slots are really valuable in your deck. You can't fill your deck up with a bunch of non-inkable cards because then you just can't put anything into your inkwell. So having the flexibility of this card to either use it when you need to stall your opponent out, keep them from questing, or force them to make a challenge they don't want to is great. But also, if you just don't need the card, you can throw it in your inkwell. So far, Emerald has the least amount of cards by a good margin that we've seen so far, so I'll be really interested to see what other kind of shenanigans Emerald is up to. We got a lot more pictures of products, including things like portfolios, playmats, and deck boxes. As I've mentioned in other videos, I think the portfolios look really great. I'm definitely going to get my hands on one of those Stitch portfolios, and I was actually surprised at the quality of the deck boxes. The actual deck boxes that you can buy, like the Captain Hook and the Elsa ones, don't look too bad. They look like they're made out of that plastic that you can also get from Ultra Pro, so I might actually see myself buying one or two of these. Maybe I'll keep a starter deck in it or something. And then the playmats look so good. We were only able to see the Mickey playmat and the Maui playmat, and I'll be honest, I keep telling myself I'm only going to get one playmat, but every time I see another playmat, I say I have to get all of them. I really love the one-drop Maleficent card, so I know that I'm going to be getting that playmat, but I actually really like the Mickey playmat. It's kind of growing on me. I really wished that the Mickey playmat was all black and white, but I understand that this is Steamboat Willie in Lorcana, so Lorcana is colored and Steamboat Willie isn't, but he's actually growing on me. And I really didn't think I wanted a Maui playmat either, but that hook just looks so pretty. So even though I say I'm not going to get all of them, I'm probably just going to end up buying all of them. Overall, it looked like Jared, James, and Liam had a phenomenal trip. They've talked about how awesome it was to talk with so many people from Ravensburger and how genuinely nice and awesome they were. I know Steve Warner even met with them during the evening just because he wanted to hang out and get more games in with the crew, which is just awesome to see. I can't express how excited it makes me to have seen so many people in a room playing with physical Lorcana cards. It makes me extremely eager for Gen Con, knowing I'm going to be with so many of my new friends and other creators. I'll finally get to meet Steve and Ryan and hopefully some other people from Ravensburger, and we'll all finally get our hands on Lorcana and get to play with each other and have an amazing time. It was so awesome to see everything the guys did at the GAMA Expo, and I just have to give a huge shout out to Jared, James, and Liam again. If you aren't subscribed to them or following them on Twitter, you really should. I'll put all the links in the description to their stuff. They did an amazing job at covering everything there and keeping the community informed and involved. Huge thanks to them for that. If you aren't following me on Twitter, it's the best way to stay up to date with all things Lorcana. As soon as I see news, I try to share it, so head on over and give me a follow. If you enjoyed the video or found it helpful, give it a like. Subscribe to stay up to date on all things Lorcana. I'm pushing out videos as fast as I can and whenever we get news, and I'm super grateful for all of the support so far. I want to know what your thoughts are down in the comments. What was the most exciting thing you saw from all the new stuff from Gala and Gamma? What do you think of the new cards and the foils? Let me know. Most importantly, don't forget to take care of yourselves. My name is Brandon, also known as B224, and I will see you in the next one.